The rain fell heavily over New York City, turning the streets silver beneath the glowing lights. Emma Carter stood outside the enormous glass tower with trembling hands and tear-filled eyes. Above the entrance, shining in gold letters, was the name that had destroyed her life. Blackwood Holdings. And inside that building was the man she hated more than anyone in the world. Ethan Blackwood, the billionaire who had taken everything from her. Emma tightened her grip on the old folder in her hands. Inside were medical bills, eviction notices, and the final warning from the bank. Papers that told the story of how quickly life could collapse. 3 years earlier, her father had owned a small construction company. Honest business. Hard-working people. They were not rich, but they were happy. Then Ethan Blackwood entered the market. Young, brilliant, ruthless. His corporation bought half the city within months. Smaller companies disappeared one after another, unable to compete. Emma's father tried to save his business, borrowing money and working day and night. But it wasn't enough. The contracts vanished. The debts grew. And one winter evening, Emma came home to find her father sitting silently at the kitchen table with tears in his eyes. "We lost everything," he whispered. 6 months later, he died from a heart attack. Since that day, Emma blamed Ethan Blackwood for all of it. For the bankruptcy, for the suffering, for her father's death. Now, standing in front of Blackwood Holdings, she had only one goal. Revenge. She walked into the building. The marble lobby gleamed under crystal lights. Employees in elegant suits hurried across the floor while security guards watched carefully. Emma approached the reception desk. "I need to see Ethan Blackwood." The receptionist barely looked up. "Do you have an appointment?" "No." "Then I'm sorry." Before the woman could finish, the elevator doors opened. And he stepped out. Tall, calm, powerful. Ethan Blackwood looked exactly like the magazines described him. Dark tailored suit, sharp jawline, cold gray eyes that revealed nothing. People immediately moved aside when he walked. Emma's heart pounded violently. There he is, the man she had imagined destroying 1,000 times. Without thinking, she rushed toward him. "You ruined my family." The entire lobby froze. Security guards moved instantly, but Ethan raised one hand, stopping them. His gaze settled on Emma. Not angry, not frightened, just curious. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. Emma laughed bitterly. "Of course you don't remember us. People like you destroy lives every day." Something flickered in his expression. "Explain." "My father was Daniel Carter. Carter Construction." Ethan's face changed slightly. For the first time, he looked uncomfortable. Emma noticed immediately. "You remember now, don't you?" He remained silent for several seconds. Then he said calmly, "Come to my office." His office overlooked the entire city. Emma hated how beautiful it was. The walls were lined with books and modern paintings, while rain streamed across the giant windows behind him. Ethan removed his jacket slowly. "Sit down." "I'd rather stand." "As you wish." Emma stared at him with burning anger. "You destroyed my father's company. He spent his entire life building it, and your corporation crushed him." Ethan folded his hands. "Your father's company was already struggling before we entered the market. Don't defend yourself. I'm telling you the truth." Emma slammed the folder onto his desk. "These are hospital bills from before he died. Do you know what stress did to him? Do you know how hard he worked trying to save the company?" Ethan opened the folder quietly. His eyes scanned the papers. For the first time, he looked human. Not powerful, not untouchable, just tired. "I'm sorry for your loss," he said softly. Emma almost laughed. "Sorry, that's all. What exactly do you want from me?" She froze. Because she didn't know. She had dreamed about confronting him for years. But now that she stood in front of him, her anger suddenly felt heavy and confusing. "I wanted you to know what you did." Ethan looked out at the rain-covered city. "My father ruined people too," he said unexpectedly. Emma frowned. "What?" "He built this company, not me. He taught me that business was war." Ethan's voice remained calm, but distant. If another company failed, he celebrated it. Emma stared at him. "I took over after he died. I spent years trying to fix the damage he caused. But you still became like him." Ethan looked directly at her. "You think I don't know that?" The room fell silent. Emma had expected arrogance, cruelty, indifference, not this strange sadness in his eyes. Suddenly, his assistant entered the office nervously. "Mr. Blackwood, the investors are waiting." Ethan nodded once. Then he looked at Emma. "You need a job." She blinked in shock. "What?" "I read your resume in the folder. You studied accounting." Emma crossed her arms immediately. "I don't want your charity." "It's not charity. My financial department needs help." "You expect me to work for you after what happened?" "No," he said calmly. "But I think your father would want you to survive." His words hit harder than she expected. Because deep inside, she knew he was right. Emma started working at Blackwood Holdings 2 weeks later. And she hated every second of it. At least, she tried to. She hated Ethan's calm voice. His impossible perfection. The way employees respected him. The way he remembered everyone's names, even interns. None of it made sense. This wasn't the monster she had imagined. But she refused to forget. Every morning, she reminded herself why she was there. Bills, rent, survival, nothing more. Still, the weeks slowly changed things. One evening, Emma stayed late finishing reports when the office suddenly lost power. The entire floor went dark. Employees gasped. Emergency lights flickered dimly. Emma reached for her phone when she heard Ethan's voice nearby. "Everyone stay calm." Within minutes, he personally walked through the office checking on employees. When he reached Emma's desk, she crossed her arms. "You don't have assistants for this. I prefer solving problems myself." "Of course you do." But then she noticed something strange. His hands were shaking slightly. "You okay?" Ethan forced a small smile. Elevators stopped. Emma frowned. "So?" He hesitated. Then quietly admitted, "I don't like enclosed spaces." The realization stunned her. The powerful billionaire standing beside her was afraid. Not of business. Not of losing money. But of something deeply human. "You're claustrophobic." "Since I was a child." Before Emma could answer, an employee shouted from the hallway. "Someone stuck in elevator 3. Ethan's face instantly turned pale. Yet without hesitation, he walked toward the emergency stairs. Emma followed him. By the time they reached the trapped elevator, Ethan was visibly struggling to breathe. Sweat covered his forehead, but he still forced the doors open with maintenance workers and helped calm the terrified woman trapped inside. Only after she was safe did Ethan finally lean against the wall heavily. Emma stared at him differently now. Not as a billionaire, just a man carrying invisible scars. "You could have sent someone else," she said quietly. She was frightened. "So were you." Ethan looked away. Yes. Something shifted inside Emma that night. A crack in the hatred she had protected for years. Days later, Emma discovered something unexpected. She was organizing old financial archives when she found documents connected to her father's company. Curious, she opened them. And froze. Her father had not lost his business because of Ethan. The real reason was hidden in dozens of contracts. Her father's business partner had secretly stolen money for years. By the time Blackwood Holdings entered the market, Carter Construction was already collapsing from internal fraud. Emma's hands trembled. No, she searched desperately through the files. Every document confirmed the same thing. Ethan's company had actually offered to buy Carter Construction and save the employees. But her father had refused out of pride. Tears filled Emma's eyes. For years, she had blamed the wrong person. That evening, she went to Ethan's office. He looked up immediately. "What happened?" Emma placed the documents on his desk silently. Ethan glanced at them and understood instantly. "You found the records. You knew." "Yes. Why didn't you tell me?" His expression softened. "Would you have believed me?" Emma couldn't answer. Because she wouldn't have. She sat down slowly, overwhelmed with guilt. "I spent years hating you. You had reasons to be angry. But not at you." Ethan leaned back quietly. "Grief needs somewhere to go, Emma." Her eyes filled with tears. "I said horrible things to you. You were hurting." "No," she whispered brokenly. "I wanted someone to blame because it was easier than accepting the truth." For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Ethan surprised her again. "When my mother died, I blamed myself for years." Emma looked up. "She died in a car accident," he continued softly. "We argued that morning. The last thing I said to her was cruel." Pain flickered across his face. "And after she died, I convinced myself it was punishment." Emma's heart tightened. For the first time, she truly saw him. Not as a billionaire, not as an enemy, but as another broken person trying to survive pain. Without thinking, she reached for his hand. Ethan looked startled by the gesture. Neither moved away. Winter arrived slowly across the city. And somehow, without either of them noticing exactly when, Emma and Ethan became close. They worked late together, shared coffee during stressful meetings, argued constantly, laughed unexpectedly. Emma discovered Ethan loved old jazz music and terrible action movies. Ethan learned Emma secretly painted landscapes when she couldn't sleep. The walls between them slowly disappeared. But fear remained, because love built from pain is terrifying. One snowy evening, Ethan drove Emma home after work. The streets glowed white beneath the falling snow. Inside the car, silence felt warm instead of uncomfortable. Then Ethan suddenly spoke. "You should hate me." Emma looked at him. "I tried." "No," he said quietly. "You should." "Why?" He gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Because people close to me get hurt." Emma frowned. "That's not true. It always happens." She turned toward him fully. "Ethan, my father destroyed himself building this empire. My mother died unhappy. Every relationship I've ever had ended because work consumed me." Snow drifted softly outside the windows. Ethan's voice became almost vulnerable. "And now you." Emma's heart ached hearing those words. "You think you'll ruin me too. I think you deserve better." She stared at him for several seconds. Then softly asked, "Who convinced you that love has to end in destruction?" Ethan had no answer. Emma reached across the console and gently touched his face. "You are not your father." His eyes closed briefly at her touch. And for the first time in years, Ethan Blackwood allowed himself to believe someone might truly care about him. He kissed her carefully, slowly, like a man afraid the moment might disappear. Outside, snow continued falling over the city while two wounded hearts finally stopped running from each other. 6 months later, Emma stood inside a newly renovated building downtown. Workers carried furniture through bright hallways while sunlight poured through enormous windows. A new sign hung near the entrance. Carter Community Center. Emma stared at it emotionally. "You really did this," she whispered. Ethan stood beside her with his hands in his coat pockets. "You said your father always wanted a place where struggling families could find help." Emma turned toward him. The community center would provide free financial education, legal support, and job training for families facing bankruptcy. Everything her own family once needed. "You named it after him. He deserved to be remembered." Tears filled Emma's eyes again. Not tears of grief this time, but gratitude, healing, love. She stepped closer. "You know," she said softly, "for someone who claims he ruins lives, you've done a pretty good job rebuilding mine." Ethan smiled faintly. "You rebuilt it yourself." "No," Emma whispered. "We did." A crowd gathered behind them as reporters prepared for the opening ceremony. But for a moment, the world disappeared. There was only Ethan, the man she once hated, the man she once blamed for everything, and somehow, the man she now loved more than anyone else. Funny how life worked sometimes. The people we fear most are not always our enemies. Sometimes they are wounded souls standing at the edge of darkness, waiting for someone to finally understand them. As Ethan gently took her hand, Emma realized something her father once told her long ago. Hate can survive for years. But one act of kindness can change a heart forever. And in the end, that was exactly what happened.